Dr. Yuri, I think by now it's 5,800 teachers. It's only women. Yesterday we had 8,000. Yesterday, day before, I think even during Karen's, we had 8,000. So I think by then, yeah.
Now you have 5.8.
Yes. And they're very smart. You can put any question.
You
All
see
women
how
and,
competitive we are? You see?
Yeah.
And, Dr. Yuri, even if you put questions in the chat, you'll get a quick response. That's another thing, a very smart.
I cannot hear you well. Just a minute.
If you put any questions for them, they would definitely answer on the chat box. Anything you put across.
Okay, will you translate or
one or two questions, please, do put in so that you can, we'll ask either somebody, either Darlene or somebody else could read out from the, Claudia can read out from the chat box. If I'm honest, if I'm not, I'll read.
Will you translate or you want me to
Only
go
one
on?
or two slides. I don't want to take your time because your time is more precious and important for us.
Okay.
So we start with most respected Professor Yuri, President of ICSPE, Dr. Karen, the President of WASM, Dr. Darlene Kluka, the Vice President of ICSPE, Dr. Beatrice, Vice President of PASCOE, Professor Claudia, member of PASCOE, Dr. G. Kishore, who's the Principal and the Regional Director of Sports Authority of India, Dr. Sanjeev Patil, my co-host, Mr. Praneshan Harihar, Technical Assistants, all my dear teachers, a warm welcome to one and all to the session of PE and Community Coaching exclusively for women. Indeed, we are honored and blessed to have with us a very dynamic personality, a person who speaks from heart, none other than Professor Yuri Schäfer, a very close friend of India. I think it's about to introduce our dignified speaker. Sir is an experienced president with a demonstrated history of working in the education management industry, skilled in coaching, strategic planning, executive management, athletic performance, and sports. Strong business development professional with a master's focused in education evaluation and research from Tel Aviv University and a PhD focused in sports sociology from Semmelweis University, Hungary. Sir he's got an experience as the ICSPE's president since 2016, International Council of Coaching Excellence, past president and board member, 1997 to 2000 for 20 years. So also the president of ICSPE 2014 to 16. So had his doctorate and his master's and a very dynamic personality who tries his level best to bring about a change. And indeed, we are proud to have with us the president of ICSPE, because when the president speaks, the others would follow. On behalf of the Minister of Youth, Affairs and Sports, Government of India, Minister of Women and Child Development, Lakshmibai National College of Physical Education, a warm welcome to our dignified speaker, Professor Yuri Schäfer, sir. A warm welcome to you.
Thank you so many times, Dr. Usha. It's
I also
and a great honor.
Dr. Karen, the Vice President, Dr. Kluka, Dr. Beatrice, Dr. Claudia, Dr. G. Kishore, sir, Dr. Sanjeev Patil, all my dear teachers. I call these girls, my very smart and energetic girls. Each one of you, a warm welcome to you. And the session is going to be very interesting, and that's why we find the number of panelists so much. Over to you, Professor Yuri, for your session, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Usha. Indeed, it's a great honor for me to share with you all, with the teachers and the experts and the coaches, some of our findings and understanding vis-a-vis the theme of the lecture today, which relates to women and girls in sport. I would like also to thank Dr. Kishore for attending this session and for all his contribution to the various batches which I had the privilege to participate in, and to Dr. Sanjeev and all your wonderful team that is doing a marvelous job in promoting sport, physical activity, and physical education in India, to you and to your ministry. Dr. Usha. I also would like to welcome all the experts, delegates, and representatives from the various organizations who are attending this session from all over the world, which is indeed a very honored situation for me. My presentation will include the following theme. First, let me introduce to you ICSPE. Who are we? Then I will try to come up with some research findings in regard to the physical education, physical activity, and sport situation globally in order for us to understand the crisis we are facing, we coaches and physical education teachers. And then how can we change the situation? And that, as you can see, is through education. And finally, I will share with you ICSPE gender equity policy and provide some good practice examples. And the three themes I'm talking about today, research, education, and policy, are actually the three main domains that represent and involves ICSPE work. ICSPE in general is a global network of governmental and non-governmental organizations representing sport, science, education, and medicine. Our main tasks are integrate research in order to enhance physical activity and sport, educate for improved quality of life and health for all people through physical activity and sport. And finally, to promote policies for active lifestyles, human performance, and good governance in physical activity and sport. Our office is located in Berlin, and we are supported financially by the Ministry of the Interior in Germany and by the Senate of Berlin. We also get some funds from the International Olympic Committee and, of course, from all our members. In addition, we run research projects in part of our work with the European Union, which is subsidizing the projects and financing them. ICSPE is a member organization. Member organizations have built up a unique network, really a very unique one, of member organization and partners. Together, we have today about 170 organizations from all over the world, governmental organizations, non-governmental organizations, universities, research centers, practitioners, scientists, physical education teachers and coaches, and of course, corporate sectors. We are running our projects in collaboration with the intergovernmental organizations such as UNESCO and the World Health Organization, and with the sport movement, the International Olympic Committee, the International Paralympic Committee, and WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency. If you would like to have some more information about ICSPE and how do we work, please join ICSPE site, www.icspe.org. And if you want to reach me, you are kindly requested to send me an email, and I hope to get back to you as soon as I can. I would like first to make sure that we understand the differences between equality and equity. When we mean equality, it means equal chances for girls and boys. When we relate to equity, it means everybody gets the support he or she needs. In other words, how we maximize our personal potential. According to the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we can find some which are very specific related to our field of interest: physical education, physical activity, and sport. One of which relates to gender equality in physical activity. Here is the United Nations, which acknowledge sport as a vital promoter and facilitator of the Standard Development Goals. Number 5 of the 17 goals says the following: to promote gender equity, specifically as boys participate in sport more frequently than girls and are more physically active from childhood into adolescence. Addressing current gender inequalities across participation, performance, and leadership in sport can make a valuable contribution to this goal. Sport can be used to address constricting gender norms and to promote equal participation of girls and women in sport. Also, the 10th goal says the following: the right to equality and non-discrimination is a cornerstone of international law. Sport in this regard can promote equality and can serve as a platform to promote the value of diversity. There is goal recognition of the importance of gender equality in all human endeavors, as evidenced by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 5. In sport, although significant progress has been made in increasing opportunities for women and girls to participate in sport, the barriers to women in leadership positions remain. And we need to ask ourselves, what can we do and how should we do to change this situation? Now, we need to ask ourselves, why is it so urgent that we really deep down, we really jump into the issue of physical activity and physical education? If everything is okay and every child in the world is practicing regularly, then we probably would not have to speak about that. But we face actually a real crisis. You know, the corona pandemic is in some countries already behind. Some other countries are really facing it, and people are getting vaccine and are vaccinated. And so we believe that in 2021 and maybe at the beginning of 2022, this will be behind the world. But the pandemic of inactivity is one which unfortunately is going to be part of what we need to face in the next decade or two, if we want to bring a change. If we want people to be more happy, to be happier, if we want people to be healthier, if we want to reduce the unbelievable percentage of non-communicable diseases and the death toll of that disease. Sport and physical activity is high on the international policy agenda because of all of what I have said. Documents like UNESCO International Charter for Physical Education, Physical Activity and Sport, and the United Nations 17 Sustainable Goals, and the European Work Plan for Sport show all of growing awareness of the importance of active lifestyles. But the world, unfortunately, seemed to become less active. Some figures. Few generations ago, physical activity was an integral part of our daily life. In the name of progress, of modernity, of modernization, we have now chipped away at it so thoroughly that physical inactivity actually seems normal. in less than 2 generations, physical activity has dropped down by 20% in the United Kingdom, 32% in USA, and in China, it reached 45% in only less than 1 generation. Based on the UK Lancet journal, non-communicable diseases kill 40 million people each year, 70% of all deaths globally, 15 million aged 30 to 69, young people, 80% of them in low-income and middle-income countries. The global cost of this pandemic is estimated to reach 47 trillion US dollars. Unbelievable, unacceptable. In one of the research findings, we find out that the percentage of kids, of children who regularly participated in high-calorie burning sports is decreasing every year in the United States, from 28.7% in 2011 down to 23.9% in 2017. 5% low in 5 years. This cannot go on. The problem is that 81% or 4 out of 5 adolescents aged 11 to 17 do not do enough regular physical activity to meet the global recommendations. In most countries, levels of inactivity are higher in girls and women compared with boys and men across all ages. Why is it so? Are we responsible for that? How do we change it? What needs to be done? How can we, physical education female teachers and women coaches, address this situation successfully? It is predicted that for the first time in human history, children of the current generations are expected to have a shorter life expectancy than ours. Dear participants, if you ask me, I cannot accept that. That my grandchildren will live shorter life than me. I cannot accept it, and we need to fight against it. We need to work together and to convince children, girls, adolescents, youth to understand the importance of physical activity for their life cycle. One of the problems that the children are not active in sport and physical activity is because they are active in moving their fingers with the remote, right? In the past years, they passed the ball. Nowadays, they pass the remote. We cannot tolerate it and stay the same way as it is right now. Well, children most of the time says that they engage in sport and physical activity because they want to have fun. We will come later to another slide where I will show you to what factors children attribute the reason they engage in sport and physical activity. But you need, my dear teachers, my fellow coaches, please bear in mind that there are differences between younger children and older children. We cannot treat all of them in the same way, as we cannot treat children as young adults, because children are not young adults, even though they might be very talented and very clever and very smart. but children are children, are children. That's how simple it should be. And the problem, my dear friends, is that we don't treat them in the right way. And you know what happened? 70% of the children in the United States, based on research findings, disengage from sport and physical activity at a very early stage, far premature, during their childhood. And this is unacceptable. And that means that in a way, perhaps teachers, coaches, parents, community leaders failed to deliver the message properly to our customers, to our young customers, to our clients, to the girls and the adolescents and all concerned. Therefore, teachers, and I would emphasize today women teachers and women coaches, and the parents should adapt the way in which they teach and educate according to the age and development of the children, which in my humble opinion is one of the main key to succeed. The ICC, the International Council of Coaching Excellence, Women in Coaching program identified a vision of the future with a balanced and diverse coaching workforce, providing athletes with greater choice and creating a larger and richer talent pool of coaches. We in the community should convince, and we in the ministry and the Sport Authority of India, together with the global world of sports and all the agencies and the organizations, should find the way to get more women and more coaches to adopt this discipline as their profession. We need more to go in the field and help us to carry out this message. Research in business is showing improved corporate performance with diverse leadership and expanding the talent pool from the male half of the population to the whole population. Will provide athletes with greater choice and raise the level of coaching across the system. The Indian Prime Minister said, India is a youthful nation. Our energetic and determined youngsters can be great sport persons. We are making a committed effort to ensure more Indians play and shine on the field. If we take this vision and we want to implement it, it is my understanding that it is a responsibility of all involved. Teachers, sport directors, officials, ministry, sport organizations. It is not a task that can be done or can be fulfilled by one organization. It's a teamwork. It's a global work. Let me share with you some of the findings that we found in a study we conducted in 2014. We ran the same study recently, and basically I can report to you that we found more or less the same results in Israel. The study was done on children in school system between the ages of 11 to 18, 6, 7, 8, and 9 classes, altogether 4,000 students. It was the largest study ever conducted in Israel in regard to physical education, physical activity, and sport. And the questionnaire was filled by the children themselves. As I said earlier, here you can see the 14 main motives for children to engage in physical activity and sport. And as you can see on the left-hand side, the highest column, 95% of the children said they want to engage in sport because they want to improve their health. This is almost unbelievable that children, relatively very young, are talking already about their intention to improve their health. The third one is 29% relates to the fact that they want to enjoy the activity. And I want your attention, I want to call your attention to here, if you can see my arrow, which is 68% to win. Okay, 68% of the children want to engage in sport. They want to feel what is winning all about. And here is a dangerous situation. Children interpret the word winning differently than adults. For a child to win is to be able to do some exercises which he or she were not able to do beforehand. For a girl to return home and to be able to share with the parents the fact that she ran today better than she ran 2 weeks ago or a month ago is for her a winning situation. It's not winning a competition. It's not winning a match between two teams. And this is something we have to bear in mind when we relate to the way children talk about winning and their expectations from the sport involvement. Here we can see the differences between the girls and the boys. In active last week, 24% of the girls reported they were not active, while only 14% of the boys reported the same. Active for every day, at least for 60 minutes, only 7.7% of the girls reported, where 14% of the boys reported. Active every week out of school, at least for time, for minimum 2 hours a week. 14% girls, 30% or 31% boys. Active regularly out of school, at least for 4 hours a week. 15 or 16% girls, twice as much almost boys, 32%, twice as much. This trend, which we found out in Israel, actually exists globally. And the question in every community, in every society should be, how come we let this situation remain? Why can't we change this situation? And why is it so? Is it because the teachers are not good enough? The coaches are not good enough? The facilities are not good enough? The parents are not doing their job good enough? But I would choose another direction. I don't think blaming will settle the issue. I think trying to initiate new way of thinking, new approaches, bringing new opportunities, that is where I see the solution to the situation and how we can increase significantly the number of girls engaging in sport and physical activity. We can see here the percentage of boys whose body mass index, the BMI, is in the range of overweight by age and year of study. On the left-hand side, you see the level of the BMI, and on the horizon you see the years. So from 2002 to 2014, we see increase in the level of the BMI among the boys, from 9.9, the blue, when 11 years old are the blue, the red are the 13 years of age, and the 15 years of age are the green, all of whom were found to have higher body mass than earlier in previous years. With the girls, the situation is even worse. Again, the blue line represent 11 years of age children, girls. The red one, the 13 years, and the 15, the green one. What we see that all girls have increased their BMI, and they are now within overweight statistics. We see the percentages, right? From 2.1 to 2.6, from 2.9 to 4.5, doubled, from 4.2 to 5.6. How inactivity, or how the relationship between not physically active enough leads to using cigarettes, hookah, alcohol, and drugs by gender. Here we can see that the boys are in a worse situation than the girls, but still the girls who are smoking, drinking, and drug using at relatively very young age is twice as much as girls who are physically active according to the World Health Organization definition. Here we see the differences between the boys and the girls. Those who actually got the diploma in school with 3 or more subjects that failed, and hidden indices. The psychological, social, and mental aspects tells us the following. Youth participating in sport have higher grades in school and complete more years of education. Sport teaches the participants emotional control. And in my country, students ages 12 through 18 who are more active in sport are significantly less likely to be overweight, depressed, smoke, use illegal drugs, and drink less alcohol versus students who are not engaged in sport, as I mentioned a minute ago. And in the USA, they found that the girls reported on less teen pregnancy. I mean, the studies reported on less teen pregnancy. Physical activity and sport and mental well-being. What did we at the International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education found? What did we find? Schools that promote physical activity achieve better academic results than schools that do not. Members of sports clubs like and attend school more. Fitter children perform better on literacy and numeracy tests than their unit peers. Older adults who exercise regularly keep their cognitive functions longer and stronger than those who are inactive. So we have to be very, very specifically focused on the first 10 years if we want to bring about a significant change to the situation of the level of inactivity among girls. First, we know a great deal about the physical activity of children, but very little about how individual children experience it. So we need to explore new ways of thinking about how children experience physical activity and provide them with new opportunities, and especially for girls and young women, if we want to enable them to practice their equity in physical activity and sport and make a significant change. Girls and boys are not mini adults, as I said earlier. Target groups of supporting activities have to include families, parents, childcare facilities, and schools, and have to be on quality, quantity, and settings. Early specialization is one of the main mistakes coaches are doing when they coach and instruct children at early age. Early specialization brings no results. If you identify a very talented girl in your community and you think she's going to be a great gymnast or a great basketball player or a great swimmer or a great hockey player, there are very little chances that when they grow up, they will actually remain talented and reach the world podium. Because you do not need just physical capabilities. You don't need just to be very talented physically in order to reach the podium. You need to be very strong mentally, emotionally, and this you don't know when you train and practice children at a very early age. So in the very first year, we have to be very careful the way we approach children. And as you can see, in the United States, only 0.2% up to 0.5% of high school athletes will progress to professional level. In Russia, only 0.14% of students in ultra-competitive sports schools make it to the elite level. In Germany, 0.3% of those identified as talented at the youngest level in their sport became ranked in the top 10 at international level. And we can go on and on. Early specialization, not before the child is 10 years of age, and with a very, very specific approach, understanding the needs of the child and how we can understand what we ask him or her to do. Quality physical education is a key, in my opinion, to get more children to engage in physical activity and sport and to adopt it throughout their life cycle. Every girl and boy should have positive movement experiences. So when you coach a girl or you have a lesson in school, ask yourself at the end of the lesson or the end of the session, if every girl, every participant can go back home with a great smile and said, I have accomplished something today which I could not do yesterday. In order to achieve quality physical education, here are some recommendations. Please conduct multi-component approaches to reach all girls and boys. Offer a wide range of activities, also for those who do not like physical activity. Quantitatively increase the amount of time for physical activity, more physical activity lessons, as well as active breaks. Qualitatively improve the opportunities for physical activity and develop the competencies of the school staff responsible for physical activity. Improve the integration of physical activity into the curriculum of schools. Create a physical activity friendly environment and involve the parents. Promote active transport on the way to school, for example, walking, biking, and so on. Today, one of the recommendations in order to face the pandemic of inactivity, it is recommended that children will be active physically 60 minutes before they reach school, either by walking to school, by exercising at home, preschool club, and then in school they have 7-8 hours studies, and after school to be active between 1 to 2 hours daily. The Institute, School Sporting Legacy. What kind of lessons of school, sport, activities will lead to a long-lasting good memories and will serve as a catalyst for change in the school, the community, the town, among the girls, the adolescents, leading to long-lasting active lifestyle based on gender equality. Let us see one video which tells us how important it is to have a diversity and open school for everyone. Excuse me, my mistake.
Sport Wales has a vision to get everyone hooked on sport for life. That means giving every girl and every boy the opportunity to get into sport. But to achieve that, they need help. And that means you. Our first experience of sport should be great. It should be fun, hassle-free, and it should make us want to come back for more. If we don't learn the basics, we won't enjoy sport when we're young. And that means we won't want to do it when we're grown up. We'll be less healthy and more likely to get diseases when we're older. So we need lots of activities, inside and outside school. And it shouldn't matter how good we are. Sport's not just for the sporty types, it's for all of us. Every ability level, every shape and size, everybody, we all have the right to enjoy sport. Because it's not just about winning and losing. It's about chasing us out of the house. Getting us active and more involved. You can all make a difference. Coaches, teachers, volunteers, coordinators, mums, dads, grandparents, brothers, sisters. You're the people doing amazing things. But can you work together to do even more? Ask yourself what you can do to get more of us into sport. Are you making the most of your facilities, offering enough choice? And are you taking advantage of new technology? Listen to us. We don't all like the same things. Some of us want to really compete, but some of us just want to have fun. Either way, it's got to be easy for us to take part. Give us the chance to shine so our love of sport can grow. Because together we can do something amazing here. You can help build a buzzing, sport-mad community, and we'll be fitter, happier, and more confident than ever before. Let's turn this big ambition into a reality. Help grow community sport, and let's make our proud nation even stronger.
Okay, I think the message we get is that we have to provide diversity. We have not to give up. We have to open doors for children with disabilities of all races and ages. And we have to make sure that they will be happy when they practice. My criticism to this video, though, is that most figures are male figures. And I want to have a more balanced figures, more female figures. And we will make sure that we send this message to the producer of this video clip. As women educators, when we start our educational journey, similar to the athlete journey from grassroots level to the podium, please be optimistic. Never give up. Understand that it is a long process. It is not about winning, but about participating and good citizenship. Be a role model. Every teacher, every coach is a role model. Listen to your clients, listen to the children. I have learned so much from my students. They taught me so much. Be open-minded. We need to market the
Dr.
product.
Can we just bring
Yeah?
the previous slide, please? So I could translate that in, I could just translate that. Could you just see the previous slide, please? Yes, thank you. अभी सर बता रहे थे कि सब जो विमेन टीचर्स है, महिलाओं के लिए जब हम अपनी शिक्षा की जो यात्रा करते हैं उसमें ये याद रखना है कि हमें हमेशा आशावादी होनी चाहिए और कभी भी हमें हार नहीं मानना है और जो भी अगर हमें थोड़ी देर सब्र करनी है, जो भी हमको मिलेगा वो सफलता मिल सकती है, लेकिन उसके लिए थोड़ा समय लगता है। ये सब जो सफलता है वो सिर्फ जीतना नहीं होता है, लेकिन उससे भी बहुत आगे है। हमें एक बहुत अच्छा रोल मॉडल बनना चाहिए और हमें जो भी बच्चे बोलते हैं उनके लिए सुनना बहुत जरूरी है। हम लोग अपना थोड़ा सा ओपन माइंडेड रखें, जो भी वो लोग बोलते हैं उसके बारे में ज्यादा हम सुने तो वो हमारे लिए बहुत अच्छी हो सकती है। तो सर का मैसेज बहुत अच्छा है, क्योंकि सर ये देख रहे हैं कि किस तरह से हम महिलाओं के लिए एक ऐसी जगह बनाएं जिससे कि आगे चल के हमारे जो फ्यूचर जनरेशन है उनके लिए हम अपना दरवाजे जो उन आगे वाली पीढ़ी आने के लिए उनके लिए हम अपना उनका मार्ग दिखा रहे हैं। यस सर, थैंक यू।
I want to ask you for a favor. Please translate this, what I'm saying now. It's very important for me to share it with the teachers and the coaches. The task is very difficult. To work physically 8 hours a day or to coach is not easy. Sometimes we don't succeed. Sometimes we think that it doesn't work. Sometimes we see that the children are not happy. But we need to be strong and believe that the journey is on the right track. There will be ups and downs. But as long as we stay with our mission to get our children to be physically active, we will succeed.
Yes,
You, teachers and coaches, dear women, you will succeed.
थैंक्स। अभी सर ये बता रहे थे कि अब सारी जो, क्योंकि हम महिलाओं के लिए, हमारी बेटियों के लिए हम ये बता रहे हैं, अभी कोचिंग जो है 8 घंटे या 10 घंटे हम जो काम करते हैं कोचेस, और ये जो कोचिंग करना ये बहुत आसान नहीं है। जो हम सिखाते हैं वो थोड़ा सा और आसान रहता है, तो इसमें हमें बहुत बाधाएं मुश्किल आ सकती है, लेकिन इसमें हमें कभी हिम्मत हारना नहीं है। जरूर सफलता आप पाएंगे, लेकिन अब उसके लिए हम हर बच्चों को किस तरह से उनमें शारीरिक गतिविधि लाएं, हमको हार माने बगैर हम दृढ़ निश्चय में हमारी उद्देश्य क्या है उसके अगर हम जाएंगे हमें जरूर सफलता मिलेगा। लेकिन उसके से सब्र रखनी है, क्योंकि हमने जो पेशा लिया है ये बहुत अच्छा है, ये एक बहुत अच्छी सेवा है जो हम कर रहे हैं। ये आगे वाली आने वाली पीढ़ी के लिए एक बहुत अच्छा एक शिक्षा का मार्ग है, इसलिए कभी हिम्मत हारना नहीं है और हमें अपने उद्देश्य को अगर मन में रखें हमको जरूर सफलता मिलेगी। लेकिन उसके लिए थोड़ा सा हमें इंतजार करना पड़ेगा, जरूर हमें सफलता आखिर में मिलेगी। लेकिन हमें देखना चाहिए कि हम कितने बच्चों में शारीरिक गतिविधि ला पाए। तो सर का मैसेज बहुत अच्छा रहा है, क्योंकि सर की बहुत एक्सपीरियंस है, इस तजुर्बा है ये इस हमारे शारीरिक शिक्षा के कोचिंग के फील्ड में और शारीरिक शिक्षा फील्ड में। और जो हम बताते सर सब समझते हैं कि कोचिंग इतना आसान नहीं, क्योंकि हम सिखाना एक कुछ भी लेक्चर देना बहुत आसान रहता है, लेकिन हम बच्चों पे जब हम देख के सिखाते हैं वो बहुत एक वो इतना आसान काम नहीं है। यस सर।
So we should ask ourselves, how can we market the product? The product is physical activity and sport, physical education, of course. If the children and the youth are not engaging in the activity, it is not because the product, sport or physical activity are not good. If they don't engage in sport and physical activity, it is because we, those who market the product, have not marketed it properly. So the role of you, physical education teachers, women, and coaches is to deliver successfully the product, the activity, to your customers, to the children, to the girls. You might not succeed in one shot. You might not succeed immediately, but talk it up. You will succeed.
Sir, could I translate, sir? Dr. Yuri, sir? Sir, could I just translate that? Dr. Yuri, sir, could you translate it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. ये सर एक बहुत अच्छी जो बताएं कि हम लोग अपना जो प्रोफेशन है हम इसको मार्केट नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। अगर बच्चे शारीरिक गतिविधि कम है, फिजिकल एक्टिविटी नहीं है, इसकी वजह ये नहीं कि एक्टिविटी सही नहीं है, ये माने हम सही तरह उसको बेच नहीं पा रहे हैं। हमारी सबसे बड़ी कमजोरी वही है। हमें ये ऐसी मांग, हमें कुछ ऐसा सोचना पड़ेगा किस तरह से हम अपना जो शारीरिक गतिविधि है या फिजिकल एक्टिविटी को, इसको हम किस तरह से हम बेच सकते हैं। क्योंकि मार्केटिंग के तौर पे अगर हम उस तरह से अगर आए, जरूर हमको सफलता मिलेगी, लेकिन इसके लिए थोड़ा सा हमको वक्त लगेगा। लेकिन हम देखेंगे कि हम सही ढंग से इसको अगर बेचेंगे तो हमारी ज्यादा से ज्यादा बच्चों को इसका फायदा होगा। तो हमें बेचने का जो किस तरह से बेचना है उसकी सीख हमको जरूरत है, और आगे चल के जरूर हमको उसमें सफलता मिलेगी। थैंक्स सर।
So what we have to do as a physical female teacher or community female coach, remember your important role as an educator and as a role model. Allow for a wider definition of sports success and make sure every girl will experience success. Remember that every girl is a different person. Encourage children in general and girls in particular to participate in a variety of different unstructured activities. So these are my main recommendations in order to increase the chance to succeed in delivering the product to the girls and the youth.
अभी सर ये बता रहे थे कि हमें एक तो है कि जो महिला शारीरिक शिक्षक है या जो हम कोच बोलते हैं, हम सबसे पहले हमें याद रखना है कि हम जैसे हम अध्यापक बोलते हैं, हम लोग शिक्षक है, हम किसी एक अच्छा सा रोल मॉडल बनेंगे तो हमें बदलाव ला सकते हैं। लेकिन हम जो सफलता है उसको सिर्फ हमें जीतने में नहीं देखना है, सफलता हमें थोड़ी और संपूर्ण तरह से अगर देखेंगे तो अच्छा रहेगा। और हमें देखना है कि हर जो महिला या हम लोग बेटियां बोलती हैं, जो बेटियां वो एक जैसा नहीं है। हम जो बोलते हैं गर्ल्स हैं वो एक जैसा नहीं, वो अलग अलग है। हम किस तरह से इन सबको प्रोत्साहित करें और ज्यादा से ज्यादा हम लोग एक्टिविटी इस तरह से दें जो कि जरूरी नहीं है कि जो मेजर गेम्स है हम उसको वो जिस तरह से चाहते हैं उनको कैसे हम इनएक्टिव से थोड़ा सा उनको हटाएं, उनको हिलाने की कोशिश करें। उसके लिए हमें हर चीज का मौका ढूंढना चाहिए। और अगर हम इस तरह देखेंगे, हम देखेंगे कि हम जो अपनी बेटियों को एक बदलाव ला सकते हैं। लेकिन हमें देखना है कि एक छोटी सी शुरुआत करके अगर हमने छोटा स्टेप लेके थोड़ी लड़कियों पे अगर हमने उन पे अगर थोड़ा सा ज्यादा फोकस करना शुरू किया, जरूर हमें सफलता मिलेगा। लेकिन इसमें सफलता है, क्योंकि अगर हर शिक्षक ये चाहते कम से कम 1 या 2 हम उस तरह से छोटे स्टेप्स लेके शुरुआत करेंगे, जरूर हमें सफलता होगी और हम देखेंगे हमारी बेटियां आगे जाके वो बहुत ज्यादा, क्योंकि हम देखते हैं शारीरिक गतिविधि, फिजिकल एक्टिविटी करने से वो उसके लिए काफी और चीजें खोल देती है। ये सिर्फ ये नहीं कि सिर्फ खेल के लिए नहीं है, और तरह से हम उसको पूरी तैयारी कर रहे हैं आगे के जीवन के लिए। यस सर, थैंक्स।
Sport inclusion and equality gender on the campus. Have you checked how many female athletes participate in sport activities in your school? Do you know the number? How many of the athletes from the lower socioeconomic strata are members of the community's team in each sport? Do all athletes in your school community have equal opportunity to engage in sporting activities? You want to translate?
ये अभी सर ये बता रहे, आप भी लिख भी सकते हैं चैट बॉक्स में। आपने कभी देखा है कि आपके स्कूल में, आप जिस स्कूल में पढ़ाते हैं या है, कितनी हम लड़कियों में कितनी गर्ल्स हैं जो पार्टिसिपेट खेल में पार्टिसिपेट करती हैं? या आप बोलेंगे कम्युनिटी में तो आपको होगा नहीं, लेकिन ये बता रहे हैं इन जनरल कितने गर्ल्स होती हैं जो स्कूल में सिर्फ नहीं है। तो इसमें कि हमें ये देखना है कि इसके अलावा जो आर्थिक स्थिति जिनकी कम है उसमें से कितने बच्चे भाग ले रहे हैं। हम वो भी हम बोल रहे लड़कियां, हम लोग गर्ल्स के लिए बता रहे हैं। और इसके अलावा हम लोग बोल रहे धीरे से हमें कम्युनिटी समाज की तरफ भी आनी चाहिए, और हमें ये देखना कि क्या आपने स्कूल में सारे बच्चों को एक ही स्तर दिया गया कि सबको बगैर कोई भेदभाव के सब इसमें भाग ले सकते हैं। लेकिन इसमें हमको बहुत जरूरी है, हमको रिसर्च के तौर पे हमें लाना है, क्योंकि हम सिर्फ बोलते हैं। हमारी भारतवर्ष में सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम ये है कि हमारे पास डॉक्यूमेंटेशन कम है। हम बोल रहे हैं लड़कियां कम एक्टिव है, लेकिन हमारे पास स्टैटिस्टिक्स है क्या कि इतने बच्चे जैसे सर ने दिखाया, क्या इतने लोग हैं करके? हमारे पास ऐसा एक रिसर्च की भी शुरुआत होने की जरूरत है। यस सर, थैंक्स सर।
I will move now to share with you, dear teachers and coaches, a very nice and unique project which was initiated in Israel some years ago, which we call Mamanet, mothers who are active in sport. And in this specific example, I will relate to catchball. Let's see first what it is all about.
My name is Ofra Abramovich. I'm a wife and mother of 2 children. I'm the chairman and the founder of Mamanet. Mamanet is actually a league for mothers. The league consists of almost 7,000 mothers all around Israel. It wasn't easy at the beginning. The words mothers and league never exist before, and as a mother it's very difficult to have a time for sport. No one thought that mothers can do something like this. I have to break a lot of walls just to convince them that it's possible and we can make it in the best way for us. So I went to my mayor of Kfar Saba and I told him that I want to open a league for mothers. And he told me, go away, there is no such a thing. But I didn't give up. I called his wife and I told her, please tell him that we want to have a league for ourselves, because I was so convinced of myself that it should be and can be. He agreed. I wrote a letter for the principals of all the schools in Israel, and I went to each school and told the parents that there is going to be a league for mothers. At the first time, they come only 9 mothers. At the second time, 16 mothers. And the third time, 50. And we divide them according to schools. So each mother represents a school that the children is attending. After 3 months, we have 110 mothers. The most important thing of the league is that it connects the parents with the children. We changed the rules. Instead of the children that they are going to their activity and the mother pick them up and bring them back, the mother is the star. Women in Israel would never thought that after the circle of life of going to school and army, university, get married, have children, they would be able to do something for themselves. I mean, the Mamanet gives them the opportunity to have time only for themselves. Mamanet is spreading out, and it's now we're having league in Sweden, in Vancouver, in Long Island, Washington DC, New Jersey. We even received calls from Arab villages to open leagues there. Now, if you ask me, I can say that Mamanet mothers can bring the peace to the world, and if you ask me what I want, this is what I want. For me, creativity is do something that no one else did before.
So what is Mamanet all about? The vision of Mamanet.
Dr. Uri, could
Yeah.
I just speak that for the others? अब देखिए आपने जो वीडियो देखा था इसमें कि जो माँ है जिनके जैसे हम देखें खेल के लिए किस तरह से मदर्स के लिए एक इन्होंने खेल शुरुआत की, तो आपने देखा अभी जिसका वीडियो था उन्होंने इसका शुरुआत किया था, और किस तरह से बॉल का जो गेम है थ्रो बॉल, जैसे मेरे को सही तरह वीडियो मालूम पड़ी, इनका तो अभी लीग चल रहा है, तो ये मेरे को लग रहा है इतना अच्छा सा एक शुरुआत है। हम लोग कम्युनिटी स्पोर्ट में अगर अपने अपने जगह पर अगर इसको शुरुआत कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि जो महिलाएं हैं जो हम ज्यादातर बोलते हैं हाउस वाइफ से जो घर पर रहती हैं, उनके लिए अगर हम बाहर ला के इस तरह से एक एक्टिविटी जो उनसे हो सके इस तरह से अगर हम कराएंगे तो मेरे को लगता है बहुत अच्छा है। तो ये बहुत अच्छा एक एग्जाम्पल सर ने इजराइल का दिखाया था। तो ये है महिलाएं जो घर में हैं और जो माँ बनी है जिनके बच्चे हैं और वो लोग जो खेल में भाग नहीं ले पा रहे, उनके लिए एक अलग सा एक खेल जिसका भी लीग से शुरू हो गया है। सर प्लीज।
So Mamanet, it's actually for mothers of children who are attending schools. Mothers lead families. Families build communities. Communities generate changes. So this is a wonderful opportunity, I think, to see how you can do the same in your community. One of the studies that were conducted on Mamanet relate to ethnic disparities in social capital and health among Jewish and Arab participants in the Israeli Mamanet Catchy Ball League. And it was published in 2021, so a few months ago. And I will share with you the main results. I just want to emphasize that there are several studies that were conducted on the contribution of the participation of mothers in Mamanet, and I think all of which are saying that it really did a great change. It did bring a change to the mothers themselves, to their families, to the relationship between the mothers and the girls and the children in the family and the community. This study, Mamanet Catchy Ball, is known as Newcomb Ball, is a team ball game that has characteristics similar to volleyball. The game was invented in 1895 in the United States. In both catchy ball and volleyball, the aim is to get the ball into the opposing court by transferring it across the net, similar to volleyball. But in Mamanet, you can hold the ball for 1 second, and then you must pass it on. Mamanet Catchy Ball League was established in Israel in 2005 as a community model that incorporates physical activity, sports education, social networks, and support among women from different population groups. In Israel, Mamanet Catchy Ball League currently encompasses thousands of players in over 90 Arab and Jewish municipalities throughout the country. Last year, it reached all these countries: New Zealand, Germany, India, USA, Australia, Latvia, Bulgaria, Finland, Botswana, Italy, Netherlands, Cyprus. The Israeli Mamanet Catchable League serves as a community model that incorporates physical activity in amateur team sports among women. The purpose of this study was to examine the association of participation in MCL with social capital, health, and well-being across two ethnic groups, Jewish and Arab women. The findings revealed the following. Participants from both ethnic groups reported higher social capital, better self-reported health, and lower psychosomatic symptoms compared with non-participants. Jewish participants reported lower depressive symptoms than non-participants. However, no differences were found between Arab participants and non-participants. Amateur team sports such as MCL are related with higher levels of well-being and social capital. And it was recommended that future research should focus on longitudinal studies that examine the change in social capital and well-being over time. What can we learn from the findings? That both Jewish and Arab participants had higher levels of social capital. What is social capital in this study? Trust, social support, and social involvement. And lower levels of psychometric and depressive symptoms compared to each of the comparison groups. Previous literature suggests that social connections, social interactions, and social networks involving amateur team sports contribute to the development of social capital among participants. An amateur team sports league serves as platform for social activity, which includes traveling together as a team, participating in major sporting events, and partaking in recreational events together, all of which contribute to group coherence, finding related to higher levels of social capital. So finally, I can say that even in a different study that was performed by Baron Peel, who found that social support and social involvement were higher to begin with among women who participated in the league program when compared to women who did not. Therefore, it is reasonable that these findings are similar. The disparities in well-being between the participants and non-participants may suggest that participants feel physically and mentally better than non-participants, which I think is the main message from this study. If you participate in the game, not necessarily only in this game, but this game has shown us, based on this study, that the participant feel physically and mentally better than non-participants. That is a contribution of Mamanet Catchable to the mothers. Another purpose of the study was to assess the association between social capital and well-being among Jews and Arab participants in the study, and it was found that both have improved their social capital and well-being as a result of their participation in the study. Here is another study that was run on that specific sport. I will not go through all the details, but I want to share with you one more clip.
ממאנט זה דרך חיים, וממאנט שינתה לי את החיים. אני עצמאית יותר. אני עברתי שינוי, התחלתי להעריך יותר את הזמן איכות שלי. ממאנט זו קהילה של עשרות אלפי אימהות, שבעצם משחקות משחק שהוא כדורעף שמותאם לאימהות. הקבוצות של האימהות נבנות סביב בית הספר של הילדים, נותנים לכל אישה. באמת, כל אימא יכולה
פתאום פגשתי עולם חדש, שאפשר למצות את עצמך ואפשר לעשות למען עצמך, גם בלי לפגוע בקריירה, בילדים, בבית.
נשים זה משפט קבוע שלהם, אין לי זמן. מאמנת שמה את האמא במרכז המגרש, שבעצם האמא הפכה להיות כוכבת והמשפחה היא מעודדת. כשאני הצטרפתי למאמנת, כל הבית עשה שינוי.
הבת שלי נחשפת לזה והיא אומרת שאני ההשראה שלה.
פתאום הספורט הופך להיות משהו מרכזי בבית. אני הפכתי להיות טובה יותר. אני מהווה דוגמה לילדים שלי. הם באים לעודד, והם תומכים.
זה היה כמה ימים אחרי היום הולדת. לא רוצה כלום, לא כסף, לא מתנות, לא כלום. אני רוצה שאמא תצטרף למאמנת, והיא עשתה איזושהי הפתעה, הלכה ונרשמה.
זה בעצם לא עוד חוג. מאמנת זה קהילה. המארג הזה של החברות שנוצר יצר משהו אחר. אנחנו קבוצת תמיכה לכל דבר, וסביב הפעילות הזאת יש אינסוף פעילויות חברתיות, התנדבותיות, קהילתיות. יש לנו בכפר הוסטל, בית בחורש. בעלי ואני החלטנו שאנחנו רוצים לתת להם מקום גם כן ולעשות להם אימונים. כל הזמן מרגש, כל אימון מחדש. זה פשוט שם, וכל רעיון וכל דבר שאת רוצה לעשות, את יכולה לעשות. היה טורניר, מצד ימין הייתה קבוצה יהודית, ומצד שמאל הייתה קבוצה של בית חנינה. רק רשת מכורים הפרידה בין שתי הקבוצות. חייכו אחת לשנייה, כיף שזה היה ביניהם, ואז הבנתי מאמנת. זה מעבר לרשת.
זו הגדולה של מאמנת, שהיא בעצם עוצמתית. היא מגיעה לכל מקום, זה משהו שבהרבה הרבה יותר מהמשחק עצמו.
זה שדרג אותי כאדם, השתניתי, פשוט השתניתי.
So what we learn from this clip is that the mother, the participants, are actually saying that it has changed them and they are now better mothers, and the relationship between the girls and the mothers and the boys and the mothers is far better. And it's not just the sport, it's a community activity. It's sharing time. It's all of a sudden the mothers who said earlier that they don't have time, all of a sudden they have time, and they smile, and they collaborate, and they cooperate, and they reach out, they go out of their homes, and they have wonderful 1 or 2 hours with the community, with other women, and then they go with them to have a coffee or a tea, and they go and spend with them some time, and they volunteer to other organizations together as a team, and they contribute to the community. So the endless advantages of sharing time vis-a-vis sport participation. In this example, Mamanet catchable sport. I will go now further to another project that was initiated in Israel in order to advance girls and athletes girls in the various sports and in the community sport for all activities for girls and women. And the name of the project is Athena, which comes from Greece, but also Athena in Hebrew, in my language, is you all, female, okay? You all, the woman. And it's a professional unit of the National Project for the Advancement of Women in Sports in Israel. And they formed the Public Council for the Advancement of Girls in 2005. And later on, the council worked to promote policies supportive of women's sports, including the development of Olympic sports and the formulation of recommendations to advance female leadership in women's sports in Israel. The council initiates multi-year action plans for the creation of broad-based infrastructure for women's sports activity and for the promotion of competitive sports. Athena, the professional unit, operates under a multi-year plan. So they have a strategic plan and opens opportunities for girls, adolescents, and women in sports through targeted programs in a variety of sports, sports organization, projects at sports clubs, programs involving local authorities, and programs promoting female leaderships in sports. They are supported financially by the government through the Ministry of Culture and Sport. Athena's activities involve girls and women of all ages in popular and competitive sports, from girls in primary schools through supporting female athletes on the verge of inclusion in Israel's Olympic delegation. Athena also provides a broad range of enrichment tools like Toolbox and Athena Ambassadors. All of these and many more help to spread and deepen sporting activity among girls, adolescents, and women at all levels, to consolidate and professionalize female management in sports and to achieve impressive results in the competitive arena. Athena programs inspire and encourage thinking of sport as a way of life, as a bridge between diverse cultural attitudes, and as a powerful social and educational instrument that must be accessible to every girl and woman, wherever she may be. Social perceptual change regarding women in sports communicate with the community as a stakeholder as part of promoting social dialogue. Breaking stereotypes, that is one of the main objectives of the project, to break the stereotype, removing obstacles standing in the way of young girls and women on their path towards professional sports. Creating role models in women's sports in Israel, labeling leading women athletes in the same way male athletes are portrayed all over the world. Raising awareness about the importance of competitive sports contributing to overall personal and professional success in life. Promoting female leaders in the world of sports. And there is a project within the council that is named Athena Ambassadors. The Athena Ambassadors reach every corner of the country free of charge, basically to elementary schools and community centers. The lectures are free of charge. Most of the ambassadors are past top-level female athletes, champions in a given sport. Among Athena ambassadors are senior female athletes from a wide variety of sports, each with an impressive record of accomplishments in her field. Social health and mental benefits are described, highlighting the added values sport activities offer to girls. The ambassadors' messages are tailored to their audiences. They touch on many issues related to sporting activities, especially among women and girls, with emphasis on overcoming impediments on the advantages of sports and the social, health, and psychological aspects of women in sports. The ambassadors foster a positive, supportive environment for engaging in sports. They raise awareness, contribute toward a change in attitudes, and serve as role models for beginner and juvenile female athletes. Here you can see two of the female ambassadors, Inbal Pizarro, an athlete who is paralyzed and participated in the International Paralympic Games, in the Paralympic Olympics, and won medals. And Naama Shafir, captain of the Israeli basketball female team, that actually serves as an ambassador going all across the country to speak up to girls to engage to basketball. Then we have the sports federations for schools in Israel. I believe you have similar sports federation in India. Active Recess is a project taking place in elementary school all over the country, in an effort to expose girl students to activities in the various sports, to empower them and to advance their sporting potential. Within the activity itself, the girls pass through several sports stations. Just as an example, they play, practice, and experience different sports under professional guidance. athletic and comic sports, 2 team sports stations as per the choice of the local authority, and 2 individual sports stations as per the choice of the local authority, all of which is actually paid by the government with support of the local authority. Athena is striving for excellence in the variety of sports. A course in female leadership in sports management is proposing to women to register and take the course. It's forming a part of the enrichment program on women's sports leadership and management. The course is intended for outstanding women who are in the present circles of sporting excellence. We have chosen in Israel, we understand that with the limited funds, we cannot provide each sport with the same funding. So if we want to have medals in Olympics or in World Championship or Continental Championships, we must identify, let's say 10 sports, which we will focus on in order to provide more and better support for those athletes who are participating in those sports to reach their maximum potential and reach the podium. So Athena promotes women's sports in 10 preferred sports and in 2 primary sports, football and basketball. I will not mention the 10 sports unless someone will ask, because in India, you will probably prefer 10 different sport activities than Israel. Athena coordinators work with these sports as field coordinators, laying the professional groundwork, the foundation for expanding and deepening women's sports, creating opportunities and promoting the competitive accomplishments of female athletes in these sports. Female leadership in sports is a catchphrase for more women in management, more senior female managers, more coaches, more referees, and more women in sports media. All this is intended to bring about an increase in the number of female athletes and to positively influence the issue of gender equality, equality in management and in leadership of sports in Israel. Each of itself is a critical issue. In the localities, leadership development and the advancement of women in sports will enable female athletes, once they reach the end of their first career as active athletes, to move on to a second career working in the management and professional fields of the sporting world. The goal is to turn this into a desirable option for their future careers, establishing a long-term employment horizon for female athletes. For this, Athena has set itself the following aims: to expand women involvement in the circles of decision makers, to increase the number of female managers, to increase the number of women coaches, to increase the number of women referees, to retain retiring female athletes and keep them in the world of sports, cultivating them and priming them to play their parts as sport future female leadership. And now we will come to the third and the final part of my presentation, which relates to policy and good practice examples. But before I'm entering this field, I want to share with you the fact that based on the Athena project, we have increased the number of female participants in the different sports disciplines in over 25% by 5 years. They get every year about, in the last 5 years, they got 80 million new Israeli shekels, which are equal to about, we divided by 3, to about $45 million US. Don't forget that in all over Israel, we have 9 million people, and it's totally different, of course, from the situation in India. We might be one city in India, one big city in India, but all in all, the system is actually similar, and the principles are similar, right? And the fact that we have to convince males to change their attitude toward females, and because in most countries and in most governments, the males have the power to make the decisions, and we need to change it, because women are over 50% of the global population in the world. So why is it that still males are making those decisions by themselves? And so in order to change it, I think we are quite successful, I would say, in moving males to understand that they need to take into account far more seriously what the women think and what they want to achieve. And in this respect, I think we have gone quite a long way, and I hope that the future will be even better. If we talk about the global situation with women in sport, women in coaching particularly, I can say that I collected some evidence and would like to share it with you. For example, in Ireland, the Sport Ireland Women in Sport Policy identified coaching as one of its priority areas, with the objective to broaden the coaching base to include more women from grassroots to high performance. In Spain, there is no policy specifically for women in coaching. However, the law of equality 2007 is also applicable in sports. In Belgium, videos with female coaches were produced for International Women's Day to stimulate women to enter the coach education programs. And in Germany, interestingly, with the Deutsche Olympic Sportbund, Sport Confederation, a working group has the task of promoting the standing of female instructors, coaches, and referees in Germany. And there is a special fund for female in sport. There is a gender quota requiring 30% of positions that must be filled by women in the various organizations. The IOC Balanced Gender Representation Review Report says balanced gender representation for coaches selected to participate at the games, and states the working group recommendation, the IOC coordinates the development of an action plan in collaboration with the Olympic movement stakeholders for more women to be eligible and selected to participate at Olympic Games level. And I can say that nowadays in Japan, the percentage of women will be equal to the percentage of male participants, which is by itself an accomplishment, even though the number of female coaches is less than 20%, which is a long way to go to reach the equality. In Israel, the Ministry of Sport amendment to sport law in 2009, adequate representation for women in sport organization. Every board of sport organization that receives support of at least $1 million new Israeli shekels, about 300,000 US dollars, will have to include at least 30% women. And this has been implemented with no problems in all sport organizations in Israel. For women in coaching programs to have the desired impact, attention needs to be paid not only to ensuring that women coaches have the required skills for the job, but more importantly, that a supportive work environment for women coaches is created. And my final remarks will emphasize the equity policy that ICSPE developed as part of good governance and leadership in 2021 by the Executive Board of ICSPE. Major challenge is translating strategic intent into measurable and replicable business process standards. as part of good governance and leadership, possible solution is designing and institutionalizing processes and standards. For example, develop a management process to achieve gender equity in programs and projects. Designate a specific person to implement the process. Designate a person to annually review the process. Plan and monitoring system based on a baseline. Add gender equity to all annual reports. Provide resources for the implementation process. Include activities which will help to promote gender equity in programs. Make new staff familiar with your gender equity program. And this is something that sometimes, we take for granted, but in many cases, we found out that it is missing. The report are not including what has been accomplished within women's sport and female participation. And in many reports, we see that they do not relate actually to the equity and the equality of women in the variety of sport disciplines. So I think this is something we should take into account. In order to make it reachable, possible for stakeholders to use it, for teachers, coaches, we develop a toolkit together with UNESCO, WADA, the Olympic Foundation for Culture and Heritage, and the IPC and the Fair Play International Committee. The objective was assisting teachers in their work to instill in children between 8 and 12 years the values of respect, equity, and inclusion. 30 activity cards, including a short lesson plan and a teacher's guide, are possible for you to accept. So if you want this kit, you can contact ICSPE office and get it. And what does it include? In a minute, I will share with you. Equity objective: to help learners expand their understanding of equity and their capacity to accept different people and things, to overcome prejudice and move towards understanding and acceptance that all people are equal. Absence of avoidable or remediable differences among group of people. Opportunities for all students to achieve to their fullest potential. Sports equity is about fairness in sport, equality of access, recognizing inequalities. It is about changing the culture and structure of sport to ensure that it becomes equally accessible to all members of society. And here is an example of the toolkit. So there is one volume of sport values in every classroom, which emphasize how do you treat children who have quite different possibilities to exercise, children with special need, for example, deaf people, deaf children, and so on. Sport values in every class. Another kit provide examples of how do you make sure that the exercises are aimed differently for boys and girls. And understanding equity. How do you provide the girls and the boys to maximize their potential, their physical potential, their mental potential through sport and physical activity? And here is a sample of a lesson. You devote 5 minutes at the beginning to assess prior knowledge and experience, and then is the main part of the lecture, of the lesson, and then the evaluation of what has been accomplished in the lesson with a variety of examples what can you do with the girls in the lessons? Another example. So if you click www.ixpe.org, content physical education, you can reach out to those toolkits and download them and use them with your students. And I will end the presentation with a video clip that we have produced together with UNESCO and other stakeholders about what we all are aiming to do to increase participation and see the benefits of physical activity and sports. So first of all, I thank you so much for your patience. I thank you for providing me with the opportunity to share with you my thoughts about how to promote physical activity and sports among girls and women. And I will be more than happy to answer any questions if you may have one.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Yuri. Indeed, for such a wonderful session. Because the only problem is since it's almost, we're short of time, but definitely post the questions to you from the chat box. We'll share the questions with you. And, the session was so informative, so interesting. You brought in a lot of new things with us. And it's been a great learning experience. And you motivated all our teachers to start something new in the country, especially with the mothers. That was the best part of it, where we think of starting something. Everybody got excited and very energizing video. It was wonderful, superb. So I think if you look at the chat box, they're highly appreciative and one of the best session. And that's, and being the president of IXP, if you can promote and you are a person who really understands and then a person who guides for a change and the agent for change, I think it starts from you too. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. And maybe I can just take up the questions. I'll forward it to you through it because I think the number of questions are coming. We'll send it to you through mail. But I think I could take a bit of remarks from eminent panelists. Is it okay, Dr. Yuri?
Sure.
Yeah, Madam Beatrice, for your remarks, please.
Well, thank you, Yuri. It was wonderful presentation. Yes, you just reached all the society, everything that we could learn from you. And yes, I totally agree that we needed to fight against the sedentary life. That's a problem for all of us. And as you showed, the women you are behind. Although if you compare years ago, we are better, but we are still have to move on. And all the programs that you showed, how help the women, that's very important. But sometimes I think that some of the culture and some of the games, the games fall in the scope of pleasure, sensibility, and emotion. In some of the cultures, don't let the women to have pleasure. Pleasure was forbidden for many years. They were training to be housewives, they were training to be in the family. It's awesome, and to change all of this is something so important for us. We can do much more, and you can have pleasure. You can play, and you can practice sport and be more active. And that, well, you answer in your presentation that we should be more specific to some programs with the culture. That's something important, to see the culture, some of the areas that they don't let the women to just to join life, to have fun. And also I saw that how important was you to have those clips with UNESCO and other companies. Then sometimes I think that probably should go on to try to influence some film companies like Netflix to show the importance of physical activity and the problem of sedentary life, the consequence of this. And I'm sure that XP can have more impact on this Netflix and all these big companies, the producer. Yes, I think, well, we'll just try. And congratulations. And I hope, XP is doing a great job.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. I just want to share with you one more fact, which actually meet what you said. In the past, wives were in the house and they were responsible to grow up the children, and they were not expected to do anything else. Yeah. So this is why we all are facing the situation that we are facing nowadays. And even in Israel, it was quite surprising that I mentioned it in one of my last presentation. Recently, we were informed by the government that by the Ministry of Defense that a female pilot, helicopter pilot, together with a female mechanist pilot, engineer, together with the first aid, a physician pilot, physician female, were the crew of an army helicopter, and it was a full staff that was actually equipped with women. And I thought, I mean, I was smiling. It was such a wonderful thing to hear about. And unfortunately, it's only one case of such a situation. I want even number of pilots, female pilots and male pilots. That's what I think we should be looking for. And until we reach this day, we need to work.
Yeah, I know. Israel is a good example, very good example for us.
Thank you, Dr. Beatrice. Professor Claudia, please, for your remarks. Madam Claudia.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yuri. You give us a lot of information, and good information, and exciting information. And I want to focus in two points. Sports has a lot of benefits, and benefits us in many ways. But saying it, people, is not enough. because here in Mexico, we say it comes from here and it go out for the other. We don't understand that. Therefore, we must act from an early age so that children love to do exercise for the sensation and emotion that it brings with, both physical and mentally. If we find a way the children make a link with physical activity from a young age, it will be a habit for a lifetime. And finally, if we, like women, take care of ourselves, and everyone, not only women, we must take care of ourselves to can take care of others. So if we exercise and take care of ourselves, we can take care well for the others. So thank you very much.
I thank you, and I agree with you.
Thank you, Dr. Claudia. Thank you so much. Madam Kluka, the Light of P program. Ma'am, for your remarks, please.
Okay. Uri, this is the first time that I've had the privilege to listen to you and watch you speak about this topic. So I'm extremely appreciative of the breadth and the depth of which you covered the topic. I'm just thinking about what have we not heard much in terms of webinar work. It seems to me that Uri's a good man in many ways, but in one way, along with our prestigious individual who has ranked all of this. Hello, sir, how are you? And what happens when you guys go to places that are mostly men and you would make this type of presentation? What would happen, do you think, as to how they would accept or not accept this topic amongst men coming from men?
Well, it's a wonderful question, and it's one of the issues that I'm not sure that we did find a solution to. In my position as a director of the Israeli Sport Authority in the Ministry of Sport and Culture, we established the National Sports Council. And the National Sports Council should actually fund Athena project with 5 years, $45 million, as I mentioned. And every time I got criticism for providing those girls, those women with money that nothing will come out of it, and it's just to spend money, and who knows when we will find one athlete that will be raised properly due to these funds. What could we do with the $45 million for male sports? Can you believe, Uri? And of course, we never gave up. First of all, because the minister was a woman, Limor Livnat, an outstanding minister. Unfortunately, she's not anymore in politics, but she was a wonderful Minister of Education and then Minister of Culture and Sport. And she supported me in whatever I wanted to do. And she was the one to lead the change of the law and insist 30% representation of women in every sport organization that is funded by the government. And so to tell you that everything goes easy, no. Now comes the second question. Do we get today more objections? Do we get today more negativism than before? I don't think so. I think there is an understanding that the Athena project is moving forward and is bringing about a change in the culture and the way of thinking of males, and in the localities, in the municipalities all over the country. They are running and reaching out to the Athena management to get funds in order to have their female and girls projects. Now, are they going to continue the projects without the money from the government? I don't think so. So it's quite a delicate issue, but I do think that the stronger the females are, the stronger the voice of the woman is heard, we will reach more equality. I think there is a long way to go. And even though Israel, in my understanding, is an open country, but it has also a conservative population. You know, to get out Arab women to participate in sport projects is very difficult. And those who are doing so are actually receiving criticism. If they have agreed with their husbands that they will go out and participate in sport, still the community is not in agreement with this woman. So this is a problem. However, the young generation is totally different, and that is why I'm so optimistic. The young generation is collaborating, Jews and Arabs together. The girls are going out. They have good time, and they socialize with regardless of their religion, and integrate into Jewish communities. And so I think this is a good sign that in the future it will be a better situation. And sometimes between you and me, in order to get the change that we are expecting, you need to legislate laws and you need to implement them. Because if people don't want, then we will make them want. That's how I understand it. And that's why I supported the legislation, the amendment, and that's why it works. You know, at the beginning, weightlifting organization, the Israel Weightlifting Association, said, how do you want me to bring 30% girls and women to participate in the management of the association? I mean, we will not find them all over Israel. I said, you will find them. And if you will not find them, you will not be eligible to receive your funds from the government. And we heard the same way of thinking from so many organizations. And it didn't help them. It didn't help them. As a matter of fact, it didn't help them when we came up with a code of ethics. And they told us, no, sport organizations are independent. The government should not intervene and come up with a code of ethics. If you will do so, we will make sure that IOC will take Israel out of the family of all the Olympic countries. And we told them, you can do whatever you want, but you will have to follow through our guidelines, and you can form together with us the code of ethics. And I have reached out to the Center of Ethics in Jerusalem, where a former Supreme Court judge is heading. And together with the federations and the associations, we developed the code of ethics for all sport organizations, including specific articles related to girls' participation and to their rights. So it was not easy because you stand and you get a wave of people that doesn't like what you do. But I hear more and more voices. That is right to do. That is time to do. We need to do that. We should not just give lip service to women and girls, but we should be practically serve equally women and girls. And in a way, prioritize girls and women over males for all the discrimination for the last century and more.
Thank you for answering the question with some stories, because stories link whatever theories there are with whatever we've done to try to make differences. And sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. And so thank you for being who you are. And Prof, thank you for being who you are. But we cannot make a difference in anything without men and women partnering together.
And that leads me to say that in more and more sport activities, they open the door for male and female participation. So you find today sports like Frisbee, for example, it's open for boys and girls at the same time, and they can be on the same team. And I think this is going in the direction we wish to have.
Thanks, Dr. Darling, for this, for your valuable inputs. Next, we have our principal, Dr. G. Kishore, sir, for your remarks, please.
Thank you, Dr. Usha. I, at the very outset, would like to congratulate Dr. Yuri for the excellent presentation. Though it started with promoting gender equality and PE and sports, but it has covered the entire gamut of physical education and sports, including the just next generation trends. So both the programs which has been mentioned by, which is prevalent and now catching up in Israel about Mamanet and Athena, are something which is very innovative and mind-boggling. So I think this has got a lot of impact, and we can replicate, or maybe in certain other format in our country too, because I find there is a dire necessity in India also to have such programs where we can have better participation from both the gender, especially the women. And the factors to be taken and how it can be beneficial also had been very rightly pointed out by Dr. Yuri about the participants, that you may be a better mother, you may be a better son or a daughter, and maybe a community activity activist. So it gives a lot of you will, once you make them want to realize its benefit, the time is no factor, because it gives a lot of pleasure and it makes one happy. So the happiness of happiness index nowadays of a country, of its citizen, is something which is matters, and how the quality of life is affected. So the smile on the person, the specialist mentioned that when you participate, you smile, you laugh, and that generates happiness, and that generates, the more happy, more smile comes, the better off the citizens are. So it shows the vision envisioned in both these programs, and I think that is quite it should be something very, very acceptable to any country. And he has also quoted about the global situation in many countries where Ireland and other having such sort of programs, and which was well accepted. And we often found that this type of program has succeeded, and in Israel, because the latest I think the statistic shows that 40% of the total athletes who participates in competitions international level in Israel are women, and in Olympics it is 45% are women amongst the total athletes. It might have increased after these programs. And also the Israeli softball, it is in 2000 the Olympics Tokyo, this is one of where is very strong contender, and there is very chance of this coming up. So that and also the conclusion what has been made by Dr. Yuri is something very important, the value of education. See, we have in the new education policy in India also, it has been envisioned that physical education and sports become a part of curriculum. So that is where the values of education is, sports lies, and every classroom, where it should become a part of every classroom. Every child should necessarily participate. Every classroom, it should be. I think this thing, our teachers would have been greatly benefited. It is not the PE classrooms, but every classroom every children should have the knowledge of PE and sports, and they should know the universal framework of and values of participating in sports. The universal framework, it is something universal. So you get them to know, get each child to know what are the values involved in taking part in sports. And this is something which is very important to the generation next. How they have to get themselves involved and what they will gain. What will be the advantage to be better citizens, to have all, to get all the values, universal values for a good citizen, good humanity, to know about humanity, to accept, get the camaraderie. So I think also this the entire session went off as excellent, and I am sure that some of the themes and some of the important areas which has been taken up, pointed out by Dr. Yuri should make figure into our report also, so that some of this program which has got a lot of relevance and which need to take up at our level, at government level, can also be incorporated along with the the other some of the valid recommendations made by the other panelists also. So I think it was overall it went off very well, and I once again appreciate the excellent presentation made by Dr. Yuri Scheffer, and I'm sure that our participants would have been definitely enlightened with his presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. Yuri. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kishore sir. Thank you so much. Dr. Yuri, indeed, for such a wonderful session. And the game that you brought in, I think, for mothers to bring in smiles, that was great. And I think when the president speaks, the others follow. So as Darlene rightly pointed, you understand what it is. So you are a person who speaks from heart. You are a person who doesn't just preach, but you just don't preach, but you practice what you preach. On behalf of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, this is Fit India, Ministry of Women and Child Development, and also from Lakshmi Bai National College of Physical Education, and above all the teachers, a big thank you, hats off to the president of ICSP for covering and for orienting and getting us through the journey of this particular information on how to empower women through sport. Thank you so much. It was such an elaborate session, but such a detailed session, a very fruitful session. If you look at our chat box, you will see there's got a lot of lessons which could be implemented in our country. So thank you so much, because you are a friend of India, and because of you, our P program has become stronger. And I know in spite of being so busy throughout, you made it a point of being with us and sharing this valuable input. And it's been a very fruitful session. So thank you so much, sir. So hats off to a great speaker.
Thank you so many times.
I also would like to thank Dr. Darling Kluka, who's the Vice President of ICSP. Ma'am, thank you so much for your valuable input and your gracious presence. I'd like to thank Madam Beatrice Freda. I'd like to thank Professor Claudia, Dr. G. Kishore sir, Dr. Sanjeev Patil, Pranesh Harihar, all my dear PE teachers. I call you as girls. I know it's been a long time. I understand the time went on, but you have been always very actively participating, and you are the change makers. And I say each one of you, because you are the heart and soul of this program. And just because we can't see, we know that you're fully bubbling with energy and you're doing a great job. So hats off to all my dear teachers, because you are the ones who bring about a change, and we shoulder this responsibility. So once again, thank you to each one of you for the feedback, please. I request you to kindly fill in the feedback. I know it's just a demo. We finished this. API program will be getting over this week. So I request each one of you to kindly fill in the feedback. So Dr. Yuri, could you see the feedback, please?
Yeah, I can.
Can you see the blue lines?
I do.
Okay. So you see, it's an excellent presentation. It's wonderful. Your inputs are going to be really we need, because we need to take in points, as Kishore rightly pointed out. We are going to put to the ministry what are the changes, what is that we can. And I think each of the sessions have given a lot of valuable inputs to us. Nearly 2,700, yeah, it's going on quite. It's been very, and your game was superb, because what happened was I tried something with the mothers, and you just give them a ball. I think you don't even